Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's special edition telebriefing on storm and flood recovery resources. We will get started shortly. We want to give another minute or so for everyone to log on to the meeting, and then we'll get started. Thank you. Hey, thank you again for joining. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Nicole Villa. I manage our education sector and the youth sector, and I'm with the Office of Strategy and Innovation at the County of San Diego's Health and Human Services Agency. Thank you for joining us today. We have a fantastic lineup of panelists who will provide insight on storm and flood recovery in San Diego. A few reminders before we get started. So this meeting is being recorded and your lines are muted. Please remember to submit your questions in the Q&A box, which is a button at the bottom center of your screen. And if due to time constraints, we don't get to your questions today, or you want to reach out to our team, you can follow up with us via email at the email address listed on the screen and shared in the chat. We'll also be sending out all answers to questions in an email. If you would like to receive the recording of today's telebriefing, please sign up for email updates by clicking on the link shared in the chat. And I do want to note that simultaneous Spanish translation is available. So para traducción simultánea al español, haga clic en el botón que dice interpretación en los controles y seleccione español. And again, to reiterate, the goal of this telebriefing is to provide important, relevant, and accurate flood and storm recovery information to provide our community and assist local organizations serving those impacted. So today we will start with some introductions, followed by resources from the Federal Emergency Management Agency and departments including Office of Emergency Services, Homeless Solutions and Equitable Communities, Behavioral Health Services, and Self-Sufficiency Services. We'll close today's meeting with Q&A discussion, and our moderator for today's discussion is Chuck Westerhide, the Emergency Services Communications Officer. And now I would like to pass it on to Chuck to introduce our speakers and moderate today's resources and recovery discussion. If you have any questions for them, please put them in the Q&A box to be addressed.
All right, thank you, Nicole. I have the pleasure to introduce a great panel. Pam Glass-Schroeder is the Individual Assistance Liaison from the Individuals and Households Program of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Stephen Ray is the Assistant Director of Office of Emergency Services here with the county. Matt Brown is the Chief of Agency Operations with the Office of Homeless Solutions within the Department of Homeless Solutions and Equitable Communities. Maria Morgan is the Assistant Medical Services Administrator, and Kat Briggs is the Chief of Agency Operations with Behavioral Health Services. Alberto Banuelos is Assistant Director, and Esma Elliott is the Deputy Director of Self-Sufficiency Services. And Jordan Marks is the Assessor Recorder County Clerk for the County of San Diego. And now we'll begin with the resources discussion with Pam from FEMA. Please remember, if you have any questions for them or any other speakers, put them in the Q&A box to be addressed later. Thank you. Pam.
Thank you very much. So as he said, I am Pam Glass-Schroeder with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So we're going to give you an overview of individual assistance. Next slide, please. So the first thing everyone needs to do is register for assistance. You can register for assistance in several different ways. You can do so by calling our 1-800 number at 1-800-621-3362 or 1-800-621-FEMA. You can go to one of our disaster recovery centers. You can do so by going to disasterassistance.gov or through the FEMA mobile app. The important thing is that you register by April 19th. April 19th is the deadline for registering for assistance, and FEMA does provide assistance for up to 18 months after the declaration, so until August 2025. Next slide, please. So general conditions of eligibility to receive assistance are you must be a U.S. citizen, non-citizen national, or a qualified alien. However, the parent or legal guardian of a minor child who is a U.S. citizen, non-citizen national, or qualified alien can apply for assistance on behalf of that child as long as they live in the same household. We also do identity verifications through an automated system or by requesting documents from you. This is just to help protect you and your privacy. We must verify occupancy and primary residence, which we can also do via an automated system or at time of inspection or through documents that you send in. Now, this disaster is for severe storms and flooding that occurred on January 21st through January 23rd of 2024. And we also want you to know that even if you have insurance, you need to apply for assistance. FEMA can help underinsured or uninsured disaster-caused expenses and serious needs. So even if you have insurance, let's go ahead and get you registered just in case you need us. Next slide, please. So we have two main categories of financial assistance. It's under FEMA's Individuals and Households program. The first is housing assistance, and the second is other needs assistance. Housing assistance is considered rental assistance to help you relocate temporarily, temporary lodging reimbursement, which is to help you reimburse you from some hotel bills if you had to stay out of the home and go to a hotel. Repair and replacement assistance for owners who have damages to their home. The other needs assistance program is personal property and transportation. Transportation meaning the automobile that may have been damaged. We also have funeral assistance, medical and dental assistance, child care assistance, and other disaster miscellaneous assistance such as reimbursement for a generator that you needed to purchase in order to keep medical equipment going. Each of these categories, housing assistance and other needs assistance, has a $42,500 max. Also, the rental assistance and the temporary lodging assistance and any Americans with Disabilities line items that we record do not count against either of those maxes. Next slide. So I also want to go over how to appeal. If you disagree with the determination or decision of award assistance, then you may appeal. Appeals must be dated within 60 days on the date of your determination letter. The appeals must be in written and a signature is required. Appeal letters need to include substantiating documentation such as an insurance settlement or denial, receipts for purchases, contractor estimates, or mechanic statements. You can submit, when you're submitting your appeal, you can do so via uploading it to your online disaster assistance account at one of our DRCs or by mailing or faxing it to us. We do ask that you include your FEMA registration ID number and our disaster response number, which is DR 4758. Next slide. So we do have some other programs outside of the individuals and households programs. These programs FEMA helps with, and they're crisis counseling for assistance for impacted individuals to help them recover from the adverse reactions to disasters and to begin to rebuild their lives. Disaster legal services, which provides legal aid to low-income survivors affected by presidentially declared major disasters through the Young Lawyers Division of the American Bar Association. Disaster case management, when approved, it's a time-limited program that promotes partnerships between a case manager and disaster survivor to help build a disaster recovery plan. And then we do have disaster unemployment assistance. This is up to 26 weeks of unemployment assistance. The filing deadline for this is April 2nd. And so you need to make sure that if you need disaster unemployment assistance, you file for it before April 2nd. And I believe that is all of my slides. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Pam. Our next speaker is Stephen Ray. He's with the Emergency Services. Stephen.
Thank you, Chuck. I wanted to start off my presentation with talking a little bit about the Emergency Operations Center as I speak to members of the community. Some have never heard of an EOC. So you can see by the picture, an Emergency Operations Center is where we bring a lot of staff together to coordinate the emergency response. And now we're using that same space to coordinate the recovery. Not just county employees at the EOC, but we bring in local agencies like city representatives, as well as state agencies. We do have a lot of roles in the EOC. I wanted to highlight two of them that are in the bullet points. One is managing resources. We do have some immediate resources, things that we start right away, like a Red Cross shelter. We also are very quick at standing up a local assistance center. But as more resources become available, say from the Board of Supervisors, we'll take their request for programs, expand it, and actualize the programs and get them moving and get them working for our citizens. The last bullet point also, I wanted to highlight emergency proclamation. This is really the process that begins getting more people to come to San Diego County to assist us. And I'll go more into that in the next few slides. Chuck, next slide, please. This begins with damage assessment. As soon as the storm had passed us by, we knew there was damage, but we didn't know where it was and we didn't know how much was damaged. So we opened up a site. It's a self-reporting survey for residents and businesses to report their storm damage to the county. We had 3,431 residents self-report. And then, the initial damage assessment teams arrived and looked at 595 sites, and these were noted as major damage. FEMA was here to assess our damage as well. They looked at 2,905 sites. And when they did that, they determined that that was enough for them to provide some assistance. Next slide, please. When they did take a look at our damage, they noted over $30 million in damage. And that brought into San Diego FEMA's individual assistance programs. This was approved on February 19th and began the registration process. You can see over 4,093 residents as of March 10th. Many of these applied online and many more went to the disaster recovery centers. If there's one thing I want to make sure that everybody takes away from this slideshow is that the disaster recovery centers is the place that you need to go to get some assistance. The individuals and household programs approved, it says 12.5 million. I have a new number for you, $13,131,000 as of today has been brought into the County of San Diego. And also along with FEMA came the Small Business Administration. This is a loan program with a great percentage rate. Over 3,138 FEMA referrals were referred, and over $500,000 in SBA loans were approved. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in order for us to recover, we rely quite a bit on voluntary organizations. These are called, often known as VOAD, Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. It connects a network of volunteer groups with the community. Volunteers have been helping with muck outs, cleanup of flooded homes, mold suppression, and help replacing appliances, furniture, even mattresses. In addition to cleanup assistance, there are volunteer groups that offer connections to emergency food, health services, and spiritual and mental health care support. To date, 1.3 million has been raised through the San Diego Foundation as part of the Flood Response Fund, and over $1 million has been granted to these local nonprofits, providing assistance to those who need it. VOAD has provided case management in the 2003 and 2007 fires, Ramona flooding, other fires, COVID-19, and they are part of the County of San Diego and have been a big part of the county for a long time. My next slide. Coming soon, you'll see VOAD taking over FEMA long-term case management. They will serve as a central hub to help guide and support people with many issues. Their goal is a long-term recovery plan. Over the next 18 months, they'll be contacting everybody who is registered with FEMA, as well as anybody who contacts VOAD for assistance. The county also signed an agreement with VOAD to turn the closed county facility into a storage facility to manage corporate donations. Donations we have been flowing into this center and includes things like construction supplies, cleaning supplies, with the goal of expanding to include bedding and even appliances. That's my last slide, Chuck. I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Matt Brown is next to explain emergency temporary lodging. Matt.
Thank you, Chuck. Good evening, everybody. The county has been working to address the need for temporary lodging for people impacted by the flood by standing up non-congregate sheltering through a unique emergency temporary lodging program, also known as the ETL. Traditionally, congregate care has been how disaster survivors had been sheltered. Non-congregate emergency lodging is very rare and has only been used a handful of times in California. On January 30th, the Board of Supervisors approved a short-term, non-congregate sheltering program to provide up to 30 days of lodging for residents displaced by the storm, with an extension available based on household circumstances, and allocated $10 million to fund the relief efforts. The county's ETL program launched on February 12th, and as of March 8th, the county, through contracted staff, have placed 846 impacted households at 65 local hotels. Over 1,220 households were identified as being potentially eligible for the program after outreach at local assistance centers, self-identified through a survey, calls to 211 asking for assistance, or identified through community partners who have been helping displaced households. To be eligible for the program, individuals confirmed that they were either an owner or renter of a residence that was uninhabitable due to the January 22nd flood. To connect with individuals impacted by the flood, the county worked directly with various community agencies, including the Southeast Disaster Response Team, the Jackie Robinson YMCA, the San Diego County Office of Education, the San Diego Housing Commission, SBCS, and the City of National City and the Chicano Federation. We'd like to thank the many community organizations and partners that have been on the ground providing critical supports and services to residents who were impacted by these floods. Next slide, please. On March 12th, the County Board of Supervisors authorized an additional $6.6 million that will fund the program for an additional 60 days. Community members impacted by the flood have been provided temporary lodging and case management via contractor to identify needs, establish a long-term plan towards returning to their residence, or identifying alternative permanent housing, and to obtain documentation required by the county. Documentation required by the county will be utilized to inform policy and seek reimbursement as appropriate to maximize funding for the region. As FEMA individual assistance is approved, individual rental assistance and reimbursement for hotel costs, our county team is reviewing the ETL program participant list to ensure there is no duplication of efforts. Individuals that we have confirmed have received FEMA housing assistance will be transitioned from the county program. Through active case management, the county will work with the current program participants to develop a transition plan from the county program, which will include connections to temporary resources and access to alternative pathways to housing for which they may be eligible. I will now turn it back to you, Chuck.
All right, thank you, Matt. Next up in our list is Maria and Kat from Behavioral Health Services. Take it away.
Thank you, Chuck. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing myself and Maria to join you this evening in this virtual space. I'm going to quickly run through some key resources on behalf of our departments in the event that they are needed by you or someone you know or a loved one. So real quickly, Behavioral Health Services, the County Behavioral Health Services Department is the specialty mental health system here in the county, and we primarily serve people with serious mental illness or those who may be living with a substance use disorder. With respect to the recent severe storms, our department has been providing on-site support. Initially, that was in the form of clinicians from our department at the local assistance centers, the one established in Spring Valley, as well as the one later established in the city of San Diego. We've also continued to provide outpatient behavioral health services at our centers throughout the region. I'll get into that in just a moment. And then also providing as much information as we can through various materials at shelters, hotels participating in the program that Matt actually just mentioned, as well as directly with partners as needed, as requested. Next slide, please. So real quickly, I really want to run through 3 resources this evening. If you take anything away, please take away this slide. This is our primary resource. Here in the San Diego County, we have something called our San Diego Access and Crisis Line, or ACL. You see the phone number there. There's actually a 3-digit dialing code that you can access the Access and Crisis Line through. So 988 if you have a local area code. So 619-858-760 or 442. You can also directly call the 10-digit number there on the screen. But the Access and Crisis Line is actually our long-standing crisis call center. It's been around here in the region for about 20 plus years. And it's part of the national network for 988. 988 was the new rebrand, if you will, and an expansion of what was previously known as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So the Access and Crisis Line is free. It is confidential. It's operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by master's trained experienced counselors. There's also language interpretation available. So discussions can occur in over 200 languages if needed. And I want to point out, so it's the Access and Crisis Line. So for Access, it's really our resource for helping folks find and navigate services. There's a myriad of services available from not only us, but so many different organizations here in the county. And so if you need help figuring out what support you may need, what is available, what you're eligible for, we really, really encourage people to start their kind of search and their conversations with our representatives at the Access and Crisis Line. They can provide that navigational support. They also provide crisis intervention support and can serve as a dispatcher for specific crisis response services if that's what's appropriate for the situation. If you want more information on the Access and Crisis Line, invite folks, if you're able to, scan the QR code or visit the link in the bottom left of the screen. Next slide, please. So that was our primary resource and really kind of the gateway if you need to get connected to any of our other resources, but I wanted to pull forward a couple more. So on the left here on the screen, our outpatient behavioral health centers, I mentioned these on my first slide. So these provide services to those who are 18 and up. And services are available to those enrolled in Medi-Cal, Medicare, or if you do not have health insurance. As you see there on the slide, services available include things like assessments, treatments, rehabilitation, and recovery services. So that could be in the form of different group therapy, individual counseling, as well as case management and medication management. So as I mentioned, please just scan the QR code in the bottom left or visit the link for more information. But these are our brick and mortar facilities throughout the county. So if perhaps the Access and Crisis Line isn't convenient or preferred by you, please feel free to come in to an outpatient behavioral health center. Our programs operate on a appointment-based system as well as walk-in and urgent walk-in hours. So again, if that is an option, encourage folks to visit behavioral health centers, and you can find a location near you at the QR code. On the right side, we actually also have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week mobile crisis response team that's open to all ages. They can respond if certain safety criteria are met. So these are non-law enforcement teams of 3. They include a clinician, a peer, as well as a case manager. And they're really intended, they can go out to the location where perhaps you are, maybe you can't get to a behavioral health center. Again, maybe the preference is that you come out. If safety criteria are met, they might be dispatched by the Access and Crisis Line. That's actually the primary deployment mechanism. Their main thing is they will go out, they will stabilize situations if necessary, do initial assessments, perhaps contact additional crisis response services if appropriate. They can also coordinate treatment for up to 30 days, initial treatment for up to 30 days. So again, if you want more information on the mobile crisis teams, there's the QR code and the link below. And last slide, please. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention, so in addition to those services at the hotel locations participating in the Emergency Temporary Lodging Program, we are actually through a contract with a community-based organization, Open Heart Leaders, we will be offering on-site behavioral health support services in the form of group therapy, individual counseling, as well as case management. So again, look forward to sharing more information. We're going to continue to share information about the Access Crisis Line and the mobile crisis response teams in particular. And I hope that helps. Thank you so much. Back to you, Chuck.
Thank you, Kat. Okay, we next go to Alberto and Esma with Self-Sufficiency Services.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for allowing us an opportunity to share some information here with you. So my colleague and I are going to tag team this little presentation. We're going to, I will be speaking about food support that has been provided to the region since January 24. You know, county staff helped 922 people connect to essential services since the disaster. More than 800 families or households has been approved Disaster Cal Fresh, and Disaster Cal Fresh is a federal program that is available once the president declares a disaster in the region. And we are currently receiving applications until tomorrow. And you do not need to be a current Cal Fresh recipient or this program is designated for those individuals or families who have been impacted strictly by the disaster. So there's an income limit, yet many of the expenses incurred during the disaster are able to be a write-off or a deduction in order for the income limits to be met. Furthermore, there is a hot food waiver in the region until April 3rd. And this hot food waiver allows any family or individual who are currently on CalFresh or Disaster CalFresh to access prepared and hot meals at authorized retailers for those individuals that may not have access to an area, a kitchen, or appliances to prepare food. And you can apply at various visiting one of our family resource centers, calling us at our Access Call Center. And I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Esma so she can talk about other resources in the region. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Albert. And we just wanted to remind our residents in the community that on an ongoing basis, regardless of whether or not there's a presidential or governor disaster that has been declared in the region, there are very many public assistance programs and supports that we do have available for residents. And hopefully we can share the link with you to our website, Self-Sufficiency Services, in the chat box, so you can check that out for more information on the various programs that we have. But we do have a regular CalFresh program besides Disaster CalFresh that is available for residents that can help provide food assistance. In addition to that, we also have our Medi-Cal program, which provides free healthcare for residents who qualify based on income. Medi-Cal is more of an income-based program. And finally, we have our CalWorks or Cash 8 program that's available for parents, pregnant women, and families. There must be either a pregnant woman or children under 18 in the household in order for residents to qualify. And with the CalWorks program, there's also an employment and training component that offers additional really great supportive services for families, including child care assistance, transportation assistance, job training and employment, and job placement as well. And again, those programs and those resources are available year round, regardless of whether or not there is a disaster declaration in the county. So with that, we will hand it back over to you, Chuck. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Esma. Finally, our last speaker of the night is Jordan Marks. He's the Assessor Recorder County Clerk for the county. Jordan.
Thank you so much for having me. Next slide. We're here to bring to you some property tax relief. I just want to introduce you to my taxpayer advocate. If you have questions afterwards, we'll make these slides available, or you can go to sdarcc.gov to get assistance and contact Stephen Lee, my taxpayer advocate, or any of my tax experts. Next slide. First of all, we want to make sure that any property owners that have over $10,000 in damage from the floods or storms, or any damage to their homes, can get property tax relief. Those forms, they must be filed within 1 year. Again, those are available online, sdarcc.gov, with an e-signature available. In addition, thanks to the Board of Supervisors and our work together with the community, we're able to get a ordinance passed that allowed us to extend property tax payments for certain folks that qualify in the upcoming April 10th payment. That request for deferral of the property taxes must be filed by April 10th, 5 p.m. with my office. If you have questions about that, I'll be providing our phone number and an email address that you can follow up with. And just to make sure that you feel comfortable, the same property tax, Prop 13 amount that you had protected before will be kept in place. That relief is also available for your boats, planes, and business equipment. Next slide. For the, just a reminder on the deferral, you must file for the reduction in property taxes. That's the reassessment of property damage by misfortune or calamity, and also have elected to have your property taxes deferred. For homeowners, again, that's $10,000 or more property taxes. For property owners, to get the reduction, it's $10,000 or more, and property damage. To get the deferment, it must have been 20% or greater of your property value for the deferment. And then the property taxes come due 30 days after your final permit and your property has been restored. Next slide. As I mentioned, easy to file, sdarcc.gov. It's a one-page application. We do ask for estimates of damage. You do not have to have all the information. Right now, you can have the estimates. My team will follow up with you within the next 30 days. We will be seeing if you have an official estimate, but don't worry, we'll work with you if you don't have the official estimates in hand. As we do know, there are a lot of contractors that are being spread thin. We will work with you to get the right amount in and to get the appropriate and maximized amount property tax relief possible for you and your family to make sure that you are rebuilding as quickly as possible. Next slide. One of the other services that we provide at the Assessor Recorder County Clerk Office is free. We provide you your vital records. Those are your birth, death, and marriage certificates for free. If you've been impacted by the winter storm 2024, you can receive your certified birth, death, or marriage certificates at any of our offices across the county. Our 4 offices are Chula Vista, downtown San Diego, East County, Santee, and also San Marcos. All of them do have free parking, and we do pride ourselves in getting you in and out of our office in 15 minutes or less. If we do find that you do have your records held in another county, we'll also help you in facilitating your application and getting those off to the other county so you can get those records that may be necessary for your FEMA, your state and local relief or insurance records. Thank you so much. These are the 4 locations that you can go to for your free reproductions of your vital records, birth, death, and marriage certificates. Next slide. One of the other services that our office provides, which has become very helpful, is a service called Owner Alert for property owners that were impacted. We also noticed that during the rebuilding process, you will find that service providers tend to put liens on properties. We also noticed that some of the security of your properties and also the security of your property has become in risk. So not only is the sheriff doing their part to make sure that you and your property are safe, but also we're doing our part. You can register your property and your parcel number on Owner Alert, and we'll let you know if anybody tries to transfer ownership of your property. We do see that during disasters, that's when folks try to take advantage of people and their properties. And we want to make sure we're doing everything possible to protect you and your property. Again, it takes less than 5 minutes to register, and you just need your parcel number and your name. It also works for business names that own the property and trust names. And you pop that in and we'll email you right away if anybody tries to put a lien on your property or your name or your business and or transfer ownership of your property. Next slide. Thank you so much to everybody at the county for their hard work and effort. And if my team or I can be of help to you, my property tax experts are available at 619-236-3771, or you can email us at arcchelp@sdcounty.ca.gov. My office and I are truly grateful to help serve you, and we're here to rebuild together. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Jordan. I'm now going to toss it back over to Nicole for a moment.
Thank you, Chuck. So now we do have some time for questions that have been submitted beforehand and any new ones in the Q&A box that have been submitted during this telebriefing. So I'm going to pass it back to you to facilitate that Q&A panel discussion.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's take off. How many victims have been surveyed about their needs to create county budget memo and programs? And I'm going to toss that to Stephen with Emergency Services.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. If you were affected by the storm, you know that there's been a lot of surveys. But I want to say that the most important thing that you can do is fill out the FEMA survey or the FEMA registration. You can do that online, or you can go to the disaster recovery centers that are set up and going to be in place until April 19th. To date, we have had just over 4,000 registrants for the FEMA program.
All right, thank you. Next question. Can someone request recovery support on behalf of a property owner? We're going to give that to our friend at FEMA, Pam. Pam, can you answer that?
Sure. In order to assist a property owner through the recovery process, the first thing to do is get them registered. So the registration can be done by a third party, such as a power of attorney, a family member, or an advocate. After the registration is complete, though, a written consent form or release of information form will need to be completed so that you can continue to advocate for that individual. The most important thing is to get them registered. And remember, you can register for FEMA yourself or for someone else by calling our 1-800 number, 1-800-621-3362, or visiting a DRC or going online at disasterassistance.gov. Please remember, the application deadline is the 19th of April. And so I'm going to toss it back to you now.
All right. I think this next question is probably for Matt. Will you provide support with permanent housing, Section 8, or low-income housing after vouchers expire?
Thanks, Chuck. So as mentioned in the presentation, the work now is with each individual household in creating a transition housing plan and connecting them to all available resources. So as Pam has mentioned, and several of us, the first step is to get them registered for FEMA individual assistance so that they can qualify for everything that they are eligible to. Thanks, Chuck.
All right. Thank you for that answer. Next question. What areas have been canvassed for FEMA assistance and what areas are left? How long will the FEMA canvassing last? Let's give that to Stephen at Emergency Services, please.
Thanks, Chuck. FEMA brought in disaster survivor assistance teams that have been canvassing the area that were affected. including the emergency temporary lodging hotels. They also have representatives at both disaster recovery centers. I should mention the time for these DRCs. They are open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week. One is the Mountain View Community Center in San Diego, and the other location is the Spring Valley Library in Spring Valley.
All right, thank you. Another question for Matt. Will people be asked to move out of hotels this week? Is the county extending their stays and resources?
Thanks, Chuck. As mentioned during the presentation on Tuesday this week, March 12th, the Board of Supervisors did provide guidance and funding to continue this program. So the answer to that is no.
All right, thank you. I am going to answer this next question. The question is there financial support available for nonprofits who experienced property damage that isn't covered by insurance? So the first thing would be to register for FEMA assistance. Some of the nonprofits that are assisting in rebuilding and coordinating efforts have received some funding through the San Diego Foundation. But if anybody or any entity has had any damage from the storm, they're encouraged to register for FEMA assistance. Next question, how can I get food stamps? I will give that to Alberto, please.
And I'm going to hand it over to Esma.
Sure. So there are several ways that folks can apply for food stamps or CalFresh. You can visit any one of our family resource centers. That can also be done online, over the phone. Or at any one of our outreach sites that we may be hosting across the county with our Live Well mobile office. Again, we've dropped our self-sufficiency services link in the chat with more information for the community and for residents on exactly how it is to apply. And we just encourage you to apply any way that's more convenient or any way that works best for you. There's no one application method or channel that works that's better than another. It's just up to whatever works for you and whatever is convenient for you. So again, there's multiple ways that you can do that. And the link for self-sufficiency services is in the chat. And you can also learn more information on how to apply for our other programs as well, including Medi-Cal and CalWorks. Back to you, Chuck.
All right, thank you. So the next question is probably for Pam. Is there assistance for landlords that lost rent while repairs were made to apartment dwellings as a result of the flood?
Sure. The first thing you need to do is register for FEMA assistance. As you've heard, you can do that online at disasterassistance.gov. You can do it at one of our disaster recovery centers, or if you happen upon one of our disaster survivor assistance teams out in the field, they can help you register too. And then don't forget our, if I said this already, but our 1-800 number, 1-800-621-3362. Once you register for assistance, then we will refer you over to getting assistance through the Small Business Administration through their economic injury loan process. And then remember that if you yourself have damages, go ahead and report those at the same time.
All right, thank you. This one is similar, but I'm going to ask it because it's a little bit of a different take on the question. Probably Pam again. My business experienced damages that need to be repaired and replaced. What can I do? And I again would encourage people to register for FEMA assistance first, right?
Yes, start with registering for FEMA assistance. Let us take that information from you and make the referral for you.
All right, thank you. Someone asked, will assistance be available for those with land or property damage due to the flooding, not including damage to the home or personal property? Stephen, I'm going to ask, it may be outside your area of expertise, but would they need to reach out to the municipality that they live in first? How does that work?
That's a good question, Chuck. I believe, and I'll ask Pam too, but I believe like if you have a damaged road or bridge leading into your property, that is also something you should register with FEMA to address.
Correct.
All right. Let's see. Someone asked, how can I replace water damaged furniture that might be covered by a warranty? So I would think the first thing you should do is, if you believe it's covered by a warranty, reach out to who you have the warranty with. But the second answer to that is one that we've had said very commonly on this, which is reach out and register with FEMA for financial assistance. Let's see. Our homes and businesses sent a yearly notice to get flood insurance. I don't know that we have an answer to that. I'm going to ask Jordan, but I don't know if it's really in his area of expertise. Do homes and businesses get sent flood insurance requests?
Not from the county of San Diego.
They do? Yes.
No.
No, they don't. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we were getting the answer on that.
The flood, if you're in a flood zone, it's part of your disclosures in your home purchase. Or if there are flood issues, those are part of your home disclosures or property disclosures in your purchase.
Okay. Someone asked, how can citizens respond to the crisis of unhoused persons who are burdened with the shortage of access to food and other shelter, along with the exposure to the harsh elements of winter? And I think the answer to this is going to be, we don't have a great answer for this within the county right now. This relief that we're providing on this call was aimed at people who had direct damage from the storms. So those are the answers that would go to that question. Let me see if there are any other questions available to us. Someone asked, how could I get a hotel voucher? And again, they would need to reach out to the County of San Diego. We can get with that person and get them directly some information on how they can get enrolled in that program if they're eligible for it. Let's see. We have an infrastructure question. The storm drains on my street couldn't handle the flooding, which caused a landslide that exposed plumbing pipes. Will the county be evaluating or offering assistance with this? And I think the answer probably is going to reside with the county's Department of Public Works, but we'll need to reach out directly and then get back to the person that asked this question. Let's see. So someone asked, what is the FEMA website? My damages add up to approximately $1,000. So Pam, I am going to let you re-give that website.
Sure. Our registration website is www.disasterassistance.gov. And you can also register in person at one of our disaster recovery centers, or call us at 1-800-621-3362.
All right. We should probably wait a few more minutes. I don't see any other questions currently in the chat. But I want to make sure that those people have the opportunity to ask any questions if they've got them. I do have one question I'd like to ask Esma. Maybe go over the disaster CalFresh. I know that the application process for that is closed tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And the application for Disaster CalFresh is actually a little bit different than our regular CalFresh. However, as Albert mentioned earlier, there's a few different ways that residents can apply for that. They can call our Access Call Center, which again, the phone number will be included in the link that we provided in the chat. They can also visit the 2 local disaster recovery centers that have been set up around the county to apply for that, or they can come into any one of our family resource centers to do that. And the Disaster CalFresh application does tend to be a lot quicker and shorter than the regular CalFresh application. And we do understand that residents may have misplaced documents or information. So really the main or primary information or verification that we need is identification. So if you do need to apply or would like to apply for the program, identification verification is required. However, if your ID has been damaged or lost, in the floods or in the storms, we can always work with you on that, but that's really the primary piece of information that's required. And typically, we're able to get our applications processed and the EBT cards issued on site or that same day for anyone who comes in to apply.
All right, thank you. Someone asked, does FEMA help pay funeral expenses? Pam, can you speak to that?
Yes, I can. FEMA does actually help pay for disaster related, directly or indirectly, deaths as a result of the disaster and the expenses. So you would register the same way as you would register for any other type of assistance by either going to one of our disaster recovery centers, calling us at 1-800-621-3362, or going to disasterassistance.gov, www.disasterassistance.gov.
All right, thank you. One more thing I want to make sure we get some information out on is those DRCs, disaster recovery centers. Stephen, can you explain those again and maybe give us those locations again, please?
Yes, I sure can, Chuck. So disaster recovery centers are centers opened by FEMA that allow you not just to register, but to talk to somebody, ask questions, provide paperwork that's needed. There are two open. One is at the Mountain View Community Center in San Diego. The second one is at the Spring Valley Library in Spring Valley. They're going to be open through April 19th. Their hours of operations are 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and they are open 7 days a week.
All right, thank you. One last question we had, information about mental health services. Kat and Maria, could you give us a little more information on the Access Crisis Line?
Sure. If anyone is experiencing any sort of mental health symptoms, whether they're feeling down, depressed, anxious, or just feel like they need to speak to somebody, then they can just reach out, dial 1-888-724-7240 or 988, like Kat mentioned, and you'll be connected immediately to someone, a trained professional who can walk you through it, who can talk you through it, who can connect you with resources and make sure your needs are being met, whether that's through your own personal, your private insurance, or through the county's Medi-Cal system, and any of our services that we can possibly provide for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, and if I could just add to what Maria shared, again, the access piece, that's the key piece. Sometimes people don't know if they need help, whether it's for themselves or for someone they know, right? So people can honestly, they can call, they can say, hey, this is just how I'm feeling, not sure, who or what can help me. Again, they're meant to help navigate to the most appropriate resource. And whether that is something that can be resolved over the phone or a referral to come into a certain site. As I mentioned, we've got brick and mortar locations. We have that mobile team, if appropriate, that can come out. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, so I'll just take a moment. The safety criteria that I was referring to earlier. So the mobile team serves all ages. It's operated 24/7. They can come out in most instances, as long as there's not a medical emergency or a threat of violence. Again, they're a non-law enforcement team, so we just really need to ensure the safety of our mental health experts as well. And so depending on if they meet, the situation doesn't include kind of those scenarios, the dispatcher at the Access and Crisis Line, again, that's the primary deployment mechanism for that team. They will do that assessment, see if the situation meets sort of the criteria, and if it's safe for the mobile team to come out, then they'll be dispatched.
Okay, thank you for that information. I'm going to go ahead and toss it back to Nicole.
Thank you, Chuck. So just want to say thank you to all of our panelists today for their presentations, as well as the Q&A discussion. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining us today. If we didn't get to any of your questions, or if you'd like to continue the conversation, you can email us at lwsd.hhsa@sccounty.ca.gov, and we'll put that into the chat as well. And of course, always be on the lookout for time-sensitive updates and resources via our e-newsletters and updates. If you would like to sign up to receive our e-newsletters, the link to the sign-up form will also be shared in the chat box. So today's recording, the presentation materials, the answers to all of these questions will be shared with those who have signed up for our updates. So that's all our time together today. So we just want to say thank you again to everyone for joining us today and have a great evening.